After one of the last videos, many of you asked how to make these patcher presets that have this nice interface and are actually useful. Today I'm going to show you everything you need to know to make this kind of plugins yourself. Let's get into it. So FL Studio without Patcher would be much less powerful. Patcher is one of those things that open up your creative mind and let you do stuff that are not possible anywhere else, even in different DAWs. So I would like to make a multiband distortion. We are opening Patcher and loading up plugin Frequency Splitter. And now we should have 3 outputs in here because we want to separate all of those 3 guys, but we only have one main output. That's why if you need something like this in any plugin, not even in Frequency Splitter only, right click, go to Outputs, Audio, and now you can enable Send 1, Send 2, and Send 3. And let's delete the main output. As you can see now we have 3, 1, 2, and now we can set, let's say, our lows to 1, mids to 2, and highs to 3. So now we are sending those frequencies, those outputs in those 3 dots. And now what we'll do is just simply load a distortion plugin. I'd like to go with Fruity Wave Shaper and link them like this. Here we have our third one. On the hint bar it's 3, so it's highs. And we right click, save it, preset as, and do it a couple of more times. So here we have our lows and our mids. Now I would like to change it dynamically, so have like a mix knob out of those guys. In most of the distortion plugins, you will have a mix knob or like a mount knob, so you can activate that knob, but we will need to go and activate the mix knob right here, because in Wave Shaper it's just not possible other way. Activate it right here and make sure you have some distortion applied here, because we'll be doing the mix out of that. So we have it like this, right? So now we have 3 red dots that we can now link to something, but we have nothing to link to it. That's when we go into Surface and we'll need to add a knob. Now here, if you click on the plus, you can go and choose, let's say, knob. Many you can choose from. The default one looks like this. So we have, let's say it's highs, and we can duplicate it and duplicate it again. And this will be our lows. This will be our mids. And now we can go to map and we have those 3 dots right here. We can link them, make sure we are connecting the right ones. And now if you disable the wrench, now we have very primitive multiband distortion. However, as you can see, if we go to highs and increase it, the highs knob follows the mix knob 1-to-1. And what if I would like to make my knob go all the way, but the mix knob go only to 50%? Amazing question, and one of the most important parts when making your plugins in Patcher, because to control the amount, we'll be using controller called Fruity Envelope Controller. And you will only need to use Fruity Envelope Controller. You might know the Fruity Formula Controller, which is much harder to understand basically what's happening in here. In the Fruity Formula Controller, you would go to Inputs, Parameters, and enable Parameter A, and go to Outputs and enable Out. And now because we would like our knob to go to 100%, but the mix knob here go to only 50%, we would connect our high knob instead of right away to our distortion to Fruity Formula Controller and then to the Wave Shaper. And now here we could make, for example, a formula A minus C. So let's say if we increase the C to 50%, now if we increase A, it will basically lower A amount by the C amount. And now if we would make A times C, if we make it 50% and then go to 100%, see, it's going to 50%. And now, check it out. It's working perfectly. But Fruity Formula Controller is much harder to understand, and if you would like to make some advanced stuff, it will not be efficient. You get rid of it and use Fruity Envelope Controller. That guy is much funnier to work with. So you'll always go to Inputs, Parameters, and Global Modulation X, Outputs, Controllers, and enable Articulator 1. Then you connect those both guys. And here you have articulators here, and here you choose what type of articulator it should be. So we would like modulation X because we enabled the modulation X. Now we have 8 modulation X mapping because you could like go to outputs and enable a lot of them, but we want only 1 for now. So we have first articulator, and here you can choose how much you want it to go. Instead of figuring out some numbers inside of Fruity Formula Controller, here you can literally just set how much you want it to go. This is minimum, this is maximum, and you can like change the shape of it or go here to 100% and then go to 50%. However, it will not work if you do not set the continuous output. Now, if we go to our surface, you can see it's going to 100% right here and then going back to 50, right? And I'm just doing one move right here. But I would like this knob to go to like 50, 60% and have this kind of shape that it slowly enables the distortion. Let's see how it will now work. So if you now have this kind of shape, it will allow you to make very, very smooth adjustments, which are very, very handy. Now I could copy this envelope controller on different guys here. However, one knob here can trigger a lot of different stuff. And that's also very important because I'd like now highs to also control the post knob. So we are actually taking down the volume from the highs a little bit and not just increasing the mix, right? And if you want one knob only to do it, we'll need to enable another articulator here because we want the same knob to control it. So overall, one Fruity envelope controller for one knob on your surface. Unless you want one knob to trigger more than 8 stuff, then you will need a little bit more of those. Now we can open it up and go to articulator second. And now I would like the post knob to go from 100% to about 75%. Now we just need to go to our wave shaper, activate this knob, and now we'll be able to link it just like this. Now we can bend it up a little bit so it kind of works the same but opposite of this guy. Right, so we're destroying the highs only without actually boosting up the volume. So that's up to you. If you'd like to do it, it works really nice. Now you could also add EQ after that and enable this band. We can activate it, and instead of the post in the wave shaper, we can link it to our highs. Now look what will be happening. We're going from 100% to 75. Still, that's why we would need to go to Fruity envelope controller and go, and let's say we wanted to go from 50% to a little bit less. So about here, and let's see what will be happening right now. Can you hear this low end when we're increasing the mix? That's why EQ would be handy here because we can cut everything right here. Make it work in linear mode so we don't screw up the phase among them. We could also activate this guy, go activate, go to map, enable another articulator and link it to this one. And let's say we wanted to go from 0% to like, I don't know, 60. And we can do it exactly this. So now we have 3 triggers for one knob doing this. And on the wave shaper, increasing the mix. Let's see how it sounds now. Pretty nice. So now we have really, really clean multiband distortion. Now, before we get into the surface, most of you will ask how to make a dry mix knob out of everything you've made, or like mute button. Very interesting question. To do that, we'll need a button on our surface. So let's add one. Let's go to button, and you can choose from whatever we want. We can do this one. It will be our bypass button. And now we have another dot inside of here, and now we'll need to somehow trigger it. So that's when you need to come up with your own ideas how to do it. There are many, many ways how you can do it. For example, one of mine would be to add Fruity balance and connect all of those guys to it just like that, and connect the Fruity balance to this one and make another Fruity balance for the dry. So here will be our dry and here we'll have our wet. So now we'll need to activate the volumes, of course, of both of those. And now if we would connect the wet to the button and dry to the button, we would basically have this kind of infinity to 100% button. That works exactly the same on both of those, right? So we definitely don't want that. We need Fruity envelope controller exactly. And we'll go and copy the one we've made already, go to inputs, parameters, global modulation X, and we'll make articulator 1 and connect the button to it instead. And now articulator 1 connect to wet for now. Where we have disabled bypass, we want the wet to be 100%. And exactly not 100%, but we want like 60%, because 60% is about where it's at 0 dB. So we're looking for 60% right here and 0% right here. So now we have full wet and full no wet. And now we want the same button to also activate the dry. So we add another articulator and do the exact opposite here. We had 60% in here and 0% in here, because buttons will always go from 0 to 100%. Anyway, we connect those guys to dry, and look what's happening. We have now bypass enabled, bypass disabled, bypass enabled. So now let's try it out. right? So we're not increasing any volumes. We have just one button that goes and turns off anything we've done so far. And that will be especially useful when we make some kind of wet effects, some delays, reverb, and stuff like this. I need to get some water. Anyway, practically, if there's something you can think of, you can pretty much make it in Patcher. Now, in the surface, we want it to look a little bit better. It's really easy. Here we have in our tools, control, creator. You can see it's super big on my screen. If you want to take your time, you can make a random wheels. Let's say this works perfect, randomize it to this works perfect, amazing, this works perfect. So we can like, oh, this doesn't look perfect, this looks fun. So we can practically randomize those or just choose ones. And if you really want to dive deep into how they look, then you can like, oh, change the pointer size to a little bit more like this, or like pointer go to glow, and just change all of those things. It doesn't really need any explanation since it just is about some visuals here, and all of those makes perfect sense if you read it. But if you can like randomize something, this looks very, very cool. And now you can just drag and drop it like this. So now we'd like to just like copy it a couple of times, right? And delete those guys. Or now you can go to style and change how it looks, right? It doesn't really matter. Or you can go to colors and just change it right here. Here we have lows, here we had mids, here we had highs. And I would like them to stick to some grid. Let's go to grid, enable it. And here we have our grid. So we know it's aligned like that. We can change the button color to also some green one like this. And now, of course, in the map, you would need to quickly relink these nuts. We can go into the plus, and as you can see, there are many more stuff like XY control. You could definitely assign XY controller like this to your, let's say, loudness and amount of distortion. So you would have here distortion amount, and here you would have like loudness or something, right? You have also here sliders. You have even keyboard. It will work when you use Patcher inside of your channel rack. We do not do it today. And for the visual here, most importantly, we have bevel. And here we can, for example, add a rectangle. We can now change it how it looks. Let's say we want it to look like that. And now we'd like to make another bevel rectangle and change the color to look like that. And now we can like make this kind of funny shape out of this. So now it looks kind of like that. We can put the bypass right there. We can also now add label default, and let's say multiband distortion, right click and go to font height and change it to, let's say, 20. And it's sticking like that. Overall, this looks pretty cool. You could also like add checkbox. So we have like overdrive here, and you put like another wave shaper at the end of everything and make it go to like 50% of the mix. So it's like overdriving everything. This itself looks pretty cool. Let's hear how it sounds actually. If you'd like to learn FL Studio inside out and get to know everything you need to skyrocket your music production skills, check our online courses. We've got amazing stuff with 100% money back guarantee. And as FL Tips member, you're eligible for student discount on majority of the VSTs available on the market. On our site, we also have a lot of presets just like this one that we made today. If you'd like to check it out, links down in the description or fltips.com. If you got value out of this video, and I hope you did, make sure to leave a like, comment your next topic idea, and subscribe to not miss out when I make it. See you in the next video.